Well, welcome everybody to The Path. Welcome to 2026. Here we are back again. Something that we want to do this year is to get a little bit more consistent with the podcast. So more to come on that. But more importantly, Stu, Tobe, welcome back, baby. Here we are.
Good to
So
see you,
good.
boys. Yeah.
You know, I'm super rusty. I wasn't on the last podcast of the year last year, so I'm like prolonged delayed. I haven't been in the mix for 2 months now, so it's good to really be back. I missed it.
Prolonged rust. You have prolonged rust.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, dude, I want to check in with you about that. Like, Toby, the last one we did was with Ronnie G, and Stu was going through the stuff with his mother. So we'll get into that a little bit. So I think the audience must know. I know a lot of people have been reaching out to you about that, and I didn't do a great job introducing that in the podcast because I didn't want to. I wanted you a little bit of privacy and stuff too. So, but you know, and I know we're recording this the third week in January, but like I think it's kind of cool. Is it appropriate to go back and say, hey, how was your holiday? How was the break?
I think so.
We'll get into reflection, right? Like, hey, what did we learn about ourselves last year? I think that's a really important thing for us to maybe talk about because that's something that we do with our clients constantly, right? Kind of a self-assessment. So I'd love to get into that with you. But like, how was the break and how was your transition back into the new year, Tobe?
Well, it's funny you bring it up because I've had multiple phone calls, coaching calls the last week or so. Late last week and then this week. And the same thing I keep saying is I think I've missed the window of asking how your holidays were. But, you know, truth be told, when you haven't talked to somebody or seen them, and I think it's A-okay for us to check in and yeah, mine were great. You know, I there's a theme I picked up from a lot of the calls I've had so far, but for me, I had a huge list of to-dos. I was able to do some of the work to-dos, but like I had a huge at-home list to do, which I'm sure you guys did too, of all the things that, you know, over this time when you're down, you should get to and get done. And I think I was 0 out of like 50. I honest to God don't think I got one thing. I should call Kath in here and she could verify that, but I don't think I got anything done. But you know, it's one of those, it's a rare vacation for me, holiday for me that like, I can't tell you what I did. Like we were going to go skiing and there's no snow out in the West. Everybody knows that. So that's our kind of thing with the boys and not so much Kath anymore, but with the boys. And they were pretty excited about it. And then there was just no snow. And I think, you know, how the world works, man, it just serendipitously kind of gave us now you're just hanging out. So it was actually really good time with the kids, the boys and Kath. And, you know, it was good. You know, reflection was there. So there was some work done on the self, but the to-do list didn't get hit. And you know what? I also didn't feel as much as I think I was reminded with, you know, back in the day when I was growing up, anybody that, you know, there's people that listen to this that know my father. And, you know, if you didn't accomplish a whole bunch of stuff, then you probably didn't, you shouldn't have got out of bed type of thing. And so, but I didn't carry that guilt at the end of this. I mean, I still got the list of things to do, but I just felt good about just, you know what? I think I backed into being present. That's what happened. Like if I really thinking about it, like I just backed into, we didn't have a place to go or a thing to do. And we chose to eat in rather than eat out. And it was awesome. So anyway, it was a good time. And then you guys know, I mean, I get to brag the one time a year I get to brag about where I live, but the weather was so that, you know, we literally spent so much time outside walking around and all that stuff because it was I know it's going to sound funny to you guys, but unseasonably warm for us from the point of view of like, it was mid 70s to low 80s throughout, and it never really got too cold. So anyway, it was, you know, it was really good. That's kind of the gist of that, but it was a good break for me. How about you guys?
I was in Minnesota with you, like in the second and third week, fourth week of December, right? It was at one point, I think it was like minus 15 or something. And I remember walking in Minnesota, for those of you who don't know, like all their buildings are connected because it's so freaking cold, right? So like you could stay inside. It's like a community. So we're walking to the building. And for some reason, I don't know why my brain never like connected this, but you told me you were playing golf on Christmas Eve. And I remember being so mad at you. like, I'm like, this son of a bitch. Because I know my Christmas Eve, like, freeze it, you know, and it's
yeah.
and that's when it just starts, dude. You know this being in the Northeast. Like, that's when the misery just starts.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, you were so, like, such a dick about it. Oh, I'm going to play golf on Christmas. And I'm like, shut up, dude. You know, shut up. So,
I clearly
right.
talk about thirst and hell with you guys, so that's a good reflection too.
That's right. In August, when it's 7,000 degrees and Toby can't even go into his car without burning himself with the belt buckle, with a seatbelt. It all balance out. But yeah. How was your break, Chris?
Oh, me? Mine was good, man. Like, to the point of like, just relaxing. I and Tobe knows this too, because we spent so much time in Minnesota together. But I was grinding through Stranger Things. I was trying to get like where it would, I could finally see the ending with my son Parker, because he was all into it. So I found myself at one point during the break, and I don't think I've ever done. I'm down in my basement, like, by myself, and it's like dark in my basement. It's just awesome watching Stranger Things. 3 hours of Stranger Things, dude. 3 hours. Like, didn't even move for popcorn or a snack or go to the bathroom. I just was grinding. I felt so good. I came up and it's like my eyes were dilated. Good. I don't think I've ever done that. Like, it was so good. I don't know. And, you guys know, like, the kids are getting a little bit older, so like they're all running around doing something, and I just felt like, shit, I might as well just relax and watch some Stranger. So I grinded out Stranger Things. I liked the ending, by the way. Tobe, I'm with you. Parker didn't like the ending. He was hoping there was that alternative ending or whatever on that Wednesday. But I liked it. I thought it was awesome. So I'm glad I grinded through that. But, having the boys home is just really special. And then it really sucks. It gets to a point where it's like there's this moment where it's like, all right, you need to go back to school.
You guys need to go back. It's time.
Like, a month for college kids is a long time. And my kids are, they're a little rambunctious. They have this thing to, like, just try to irritate me, and whoever does it wins, right? So, I have butt cheeks on my windows in my office because they thought that would be fun to moon Dad while he's on calls. I have, they're getting home at 2 a.m. That, Uber, Joy can't really sleep. So as much as it's awesome to have them home and just the communal part and just the family part of it, which we had so much great time together. So that was awesome. But there's also a moment to, like, just, it's time to move on. It's time to go back home to your home now. To your home. And and you guys and I have talked about this. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about it today. It's just that, I don't know. I got some feelings about that. Like, am I, as a dad, like, shit, should I be happy that my kids are leaving, and going back? But then it's like, Joy and I are walking and we're talking about it. And it's like, shit, we've done a really good job. Like, they love where they are. They love their life. They love where they are. We need that they need that independence from us. They need to go create their own life. We can come in. We've set up our life to the point where we can come in and show up every once in a while and talk to them and stuff. So, like, and create that experience. So, but I'm going through that. That's a little bit. And now they're gone, and now it's back to me, Tan, and
you're missing them,
which is awesome. I miss them, but this is awesome too. So, really, really great break. Came back super recharged, super energized, super excited. Learned a lot about myself, which we'll get into, just how I showed up last year for me and for the family and for you guys and the business. So I'm excited to share that with you. But yeah, it was a great break. How about you, Stewie?
It was, you know what? There's so much of your breaks that I had very similar experience. I had probably, Toby, 25 things on the things to do list. I think I got one done, which was clean out my closet, like organize. It was just a mess. So I got one done. The funny part about the whole break and being able to check out, Chris, I don't think you might not remember this, but this was probably 7 or 8 years ago. It was right before the break. We were gripping it tight. It was the end of the year. It was a stressful part. And you sent me a link of a thing called Rom Jewel.
Oh, yeah.
Which was the concept of between Christmas and New Year's. It's like I don't know. It was like a belief system that period of time was for rejuvenation, and that you should be on the couch, and that you should be like deflecting any responsibility over that
like Norwegian, week. Right? Wasn't it like Norwegian?
I don't know.
The happy people or something like that. Yeah.
it's become kind of a term for we need a break. Like, who needs a Rom Jewel day? Like, so that break, there's not a lot of judgment in my house, and there hasn't been since you sent that probably 7 years ago. So that period of time is usually a lot of chilling out for everybody, which is good. But we had a ton of family in. Shelly and I, my wife and I, hosted a lot, which is unique. We didn't tend to do that. But it was filled with a ton of laughs. We had Shelly's family over. We had obviously my dad, my stepmom, my sister, my nephew. So it was action packed. I think I called you guys like the Sunday after Christmas, and you guys were all getting kind of amped up for the year. And I was like, hey boys, my holiday just started. I'm not answering email for another week. Like, let me go. I've been on call for the last 5 days, but it was freaking awesome. It filled the bucket. Yeah, I'll share with you all, we can, I think it's probably appropriate to bring this up, but I did lose my mom in October of last year, October 24th. And so the holidays were really different this year, if I'm being honest. Her absence, even though, we didn't live close by, and we hadn't for probably 25 years. There were just some traditions that were missed. The phone call that, you always had on Christmas Day, the check-ins throughout the holiday break that we would always do. And Thanksgiving was the one holiday that she would come up and we would try to see each other. So to lose a parent in general, which there's probably a whole show about this, but is tough. To lose a parent a few weeks before the holiday season just brings a different dynamic, but what was beautiful about it, not to say everything was rosy, there was a lot of grieving over that period of time. Intentional kind of privacy, and not the depressed kind of isolation that I used to do, but more of an isolation around just kind of being present with what was going on and understanding the significance of losing her. So the break kind of, even though we didn't have a lot of true path stuff going on over that period of time, it was a gift to be able to kind of pull away, be around family, be around a lot of love, but be able to process kind of what's going on internally. So yeah, it's been an interesting 3 or 4 months, like you guys said, that has taken, the press line, that's been top news for me is her passing. Her birthday was last Friday, right? So it's like, it's just a constant reminder of her, really, not just the loss, but of her. So it's been this kind of interesting period of time of a lot of reflection, a lot of leveraging of the skills that we talk about on this show a lot, about being present, surrendering, making sure that you are authentic about the emotions that you're feeling and let it play out and let that process kind of take place. But it's also been incredibly empowering. There's been some real clarity coming from her loss, or my loss of my mom. There's been some things that have been absolutely wonderful that have come from this. And so I'm just continuing to focus on a lot of that stuff. But the holidays were a lot of family, a lot of memories, a lot of laughs, a lot of stories. My mom now is kind of an action, like my 2 girls, my wife will say, my mom was called Gammy. And so they would say, Gammy's watching, or Gammy, Gammy's now a decisive or decision point for people. Like, what would she do kind of in that moment? So it's been different. It's been an emotional roller coaster in a lot of ways, but also really clarifying. So appreciate all the calls, all the emails. I tried to go in a hole a little bit, but then the podcast kind of put it on blast. So I got some good for all the listeners. Now I know who listens to the podcast and who doesn't. So, but I got so many wonderful messages and just a lot of love. And that's probably the word I would say. I just felt a lot of love since her passing. So appreciate you all supporting me as well.
Thanks for sharing, Stu. Chris and I were thinking of you and continue to do so, knowing how kind of fresh it's all been. You talked about a lot of the reflection and a lot of the takeaways, if you will, or maybe they didn't say takeaways, but like, I'm curious about, like, what's one gem or one something that came out of her passing? Because sometimes it's kind of how we want to live our lives, you know, when we our parents and be like through the lenses of their mortality. I'm curious about what came up for you. I know there was a lot you took from that, but just top of mind that was like maybe a gift from the passing or a reflection or an epiphany or something like that.
Yeah, you know, there's so many, Tobe. I mean, there's so many big kind of personal pillars that have come through that reflection of just, you know, redefinition of purpose. I mean, I could kind of connect a lot of dots, but I think the one that maybe is timely based on what's going on in the world right now, and just seeing, you know, what's all over our news and what's all over every conversation, certainly over the holidays and politics and just the polarization that goes on. I'll share these two stories because I'll be shocked if I can get through them without being emotional. But, you know, I was with friends when I found out my mom was really sick, and that was a really special moment to be with a group of friends that were together to have a great time and party, but showed up in just such a loving way. A lot of hugs, a lot of support from men that I've known for a long time, and I expected some version of care. But the level of support that I received in that moment of getting that phone call is something I'll never forget. And sharing that with them was something that was really special. And a bond that, you know, that moment is just something you can't recreate. And so this whole journey kind of started in a moment like that. I drove straight through 6 hours to the hospital, and got to the hospital and was able to be with my mom. As she was in really bad shape. And we had to make the hard decision to kind of, you know, pull the plug and kind of make that next step. And I went out to the lobby and I was standing there, and they had asked us to leave the room. And this nurse, this guy comes up to me, and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he looks at me and he says, "I think you should go in with your mom." And so I walked in and I sat with her. It was just her and I for that moment, and I'm just so grateful he said that to me.
What a gift!
Sorry.
No, never need to be sorry about that, buddy. It tells me how much you loved your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were just these moments, Tobe, that kept showing up of the amount of love and kindness in this world. You know, I left the hospital that night, and had to check into a residence inn. And I walked in, and, you know, you guys have checked into a million hotels. The first question they ask is, "So what brings you here?" And I couldn't get out. I just was staring at him, and I just started crying, you know. And he was about a 70-year-old, probably 65-year-old, very Southern Black man, very, very deep in his faith. And he got from behind the counter and he came around the side and he just hugged me. And he just stood there with me. So, you know, that the thing I took, there was so much pain, you know, and so much sadness. And every time I didn't think you know, whether it was checking into a hotel or even going to the airport and trying to navigate that, there was just always someone there to help shepherd me in that moment with a lot of care and a lot of support. And I think you know, I find myself at different times in my life getting callous to this world and thinking, you know, there's just that love is kind of in your bubble, right? And that kindness is just what you kind of protect and manufacture. And the world is just kind of this world of chaos. And I found quite the opposite in those moments. I found just a lot of safety and a lot of care and just a lot of just kindness. So, yeah, Tobe, I think there was certainly a lot of things I took about my mom's passing and what I took personally, which I'm sure we'll talk about at another time. But the one thing I took from that moment was certainly the love that's in this world if we look for it hard enough, you know, if we allow it to come to us.
Yeah, or sometimes it comes around the corner and gets you.
Or it comes and puts their arm around you.
Yeah, right around the corner on the counter. Boy, thanks, man. I didn't know that. I appreciate just those stories because it's a time of your life you'll never forget. So I'm
Yep.
glad. I'm glad that from the point of view of, I'm not glad that she's gone, but I'm glad of all the stories now that you're accumulating or remembering her and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, man. We go. People don't think that we're going through this, as coaches and doing what we do. It's like we got it all figured out, right? We got it all square rooted. And seeing you go through that, Stu, and I remember having a conversation with you and just getting off and being so blessed and so proud and excited for you in a way, right? Obviously, you just lost your mom. That you're in this space right now to have to go through that with her, because I think
man.
a year ago or 2 years ago, I think we would have seen a different version of you, one that would have probably secluded himself and probably would have dealt with it in a way more unhealthy. And just to see how you dealt with this, and we talk about this all the time. So you talk about like with men, right? We just kind of push it down, push the emotion down. And you didn't, dude. Like the story about the man in Residence Inn, the story about, you remember you telling me like you've got a new vigor for life. Like hearing through someone that you love's death, like you have a new vigor for life, and almost like I need to for her type thing. And to see this new version of Stu, not new because it's not like you were but this kind of like reinvigorated version of Stu. I'm not good with the whole death thing or emotion. I'm still dealing with all that stuff, right? So we're trying to help you go through it, and sometimes that help was just giving you space, but trying to be there when you needed me. Like seeing you navigate that and deal with your emotions and your love for her, and not push them down. And that was just so cool for me to see, bud. And I'm just so proud that we were able to do it as True Path, because I think the work that you've done on yourself the last year and a half, allowed you to handle that with so much grace and growth and dignity and respect and love for your mom. So it sounds weird to say, it was cool to be part of. Like, that's not what I'm, but like to see you manage that was special, buddy.
That means a lot, Chris. And I'm watching Toby with a thumbs up. You both were so critical, and just those words mattered, and being there. I think that's the thing. Now I know on the other side what you need, when you lose something that matters, and the reality is you just need people to be present with you. And both of you were very present. Without going into grave detail about my mom and who she was and what she meant to me and what she and I were, it's a single mom with a really bad boy, bad kid that found a bond to make it work. Right. And so there was deep connection, deep respect, and deep love with my mom. But she also didn't wallow. And she was not someone she wasn't the most emotionally evolved woman where, you dusted yourself off and you got back to work. Like, she didn't spend a lot of time wallowing in negativity at all, ever, even if it was the loss of your mom. Like, there's just something innate in her. Now, I wish she would have taught me how to process emotion when I was younger, because it probably would have helped me later in life. But there's also this beauty in, her passing, Chris. And I think this was where you and I were talking, and Toby and I had this talk about, I got lost for a few years, as goals got attained and roles got fulfilled as a father and as a husband. We've talked on this podcast a lot about purpose and about kind of who we are and what we want to be. And, I can remember sitting at the bedside of my mom, and I was thanking her out loud for all of the things that she has given me in my life. And I got to a part of it where there's a lot, right? In that moment, there was a lot of things coming to mind that I wanted her to hear. And there were three things I just kept saying to her that what she gave me. And one of those is, my mom was one of the most optimistic people that you'll ever meet. She never felt like she couldn't figure out the good in a person or in a situation. She just wouldn't allow herself to become a victim. And that parlays into that dust yourself off mindset. She would say, because there was something good to go for, right? It wasn't just dust it off because that's what you do. It was because we're wasting time worrying about the bad and not going out after the good. So, I'm replaying these things, Chris, like sitting there telling her these things, and they're just kind of getting embedded in me. And then, she was fiercely loyal. Like, I can remember I had the whole school board of Cobb County in Georgia basically coming after me to kick me out of school, kick me off the football team. And this woman stood in front of the school board, went in front of the principal. I mean, she fought for months to make sure that I could play football. And this loyalty, even, as I grew up and moved away, her loyalty to her son and the protection of family was something that I definitely remember as a young kid. And then the last one was, she just had an uncanny work ethic. She would work 3 or 4 jobs the majority of my life. Like, she never looked for the shortcut or the out. And she was very character driven about that and very proud of being that person. And so I share that all with you. And I just now realize we're on a podcast and not just having a call. So I hope the audience isn't bored already. But the thing that resonated with me is that as I'm saying those things, Chris, and then I have a 14-hour car ride back to Philadelphia, it just this feeling of connection with her, this feeling of purpose came from that. And this reconnection of my younger years of how I wanted to pay my mom back was by literally being those 3 things. Like, and now as she's passed, and here I am, my mid 50s, and I'm looking at this next chapter and this next mountain. It's like, I've been on this search to find what I felt has been missing. And yet all the while it's been right here, these values, or the impact that my mom taught me to have, which ultimately helped me become incredibly successful in business, were the same things that I think I forgot, And so there was this really coming home type feeling. Awesome. Maybe this land's cheesy, but this feeling of connection to my mom and reconnection to who I am, if that makes sense.
Totally does.
I love it. Isn't that the journey, man? Like the path, that's what we talk about, right? It's like being aware enough and present enough to understand these gifts that even in someone's passing are passed on to us, and be able to pay that forward, and then using those gifts to keep us aligned. So when we steer off our path, it'll get us grounded, and using those gifts to kind of keep us more aligned to the authentic path and our ideal self that we want to become. So I think it's beautiful, man.
Thanks,
awesome,
buddy.
I think there's definitely a conversation here. Tobe, I know you lost your pops and you bring him up quite often, and usually in the artistic and the ass kicking way. But I don't know that whole story. And I got a good buddy of mine that says he lost both his parents, and I know he still struggles with it, man, and who he is. I think there's a absolute episode here that maybe we talk about. I think I would learn a lot how to be a better friend to people. And I have few aging parents with step and all that other fun stuff. I'm sure I'll be going through it. So I think there's definitely an opportunity for us to really dive into this a little bit more deeply.
Yeah. And I think it brings up for me, like, and you mentioned it, Chris, about Stu, about kind of this different version of him, and him being probably more ready than ever from your lens, because you guys have been friends for so long, and he knows you quite well. And I just, and again, it's not to simplify it. I think there is a space for that combo, Chris, but it gets back to that males and how we just don't lean in. And I'm generally speaking, obviously, but like just not leaning into the emotion, and leaning into things that, traditionally, hey, we can't be scared and we can't be sad. And, and I've talked about this. We've all talked about this on our podcast before, but just even you not being able to get through that story, Stu, is just, it's really powerful from so many levels of to see a man just be in a moment about his mom and be in a moment of true vulnerability about like, hey, it's hard for me to even get the words out, and quickly followed by I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, which, if we could win this race with these men out there that listen to us, it's like, let's win the race of not apologizing for being us, like it's just lean into it. And yeah, just because stuff makes us uncomfortable doesn't mean we don't need it. And we all need to feel, and we probably don't have good role models for all of that. And, I just think there is so much pressure on the young women and the young men in this world about just trying to be something that either people want or social media is asking or craving. And we go through it in our coaching, like people trying to, whether it's keeping up with or whether it's just not feeling judged and taken apart for being maybe not perfect or not this or not that. But it gets back to these emotions for me, man. It's and you guys, ironically enough, I mean, I got a cop too. I'm not the best at it either. I'm a work in progress with all of this stuff. So I'm over here trying to tell everyone they need to do it. But I know in my own reflection this last year, just getting more and more willing, or willing is probably the wrong word, but just giving it. It's that surrender word, Chris, that I'm just going to keep using, like just surrendering into like, hey, you know what? These are the feelings, and whether they land and they're too heavy for the men that are listening or whatever else, I'm not going to fucking apologize for it. It's like, it just is what it is. And it's, and if it gives permission to them through me modeling it to do the same, then I think I'm winning the race. But regardless, I'm not doing it for that. It's just to just get more and more in tune with it. Cause so many times it's that last minute bedside confession. I've always said like, hey, don't wait for the ER room to then confess. But it's like, man, if we could get people to just confess tomorrow and the next day of how much they love or how much they haven't loved, the impact those people around us have made on us. I mean, just what a gift that would be. And I don't know that we could talk about this enough as men.
Yeah, Tobe, we can move off this topic, but it's so funny you position it that way, because I can remember when I got, that the night that my mom passed, we went back to the hotels and kind of did our thing. The next morning was when we had to alert family, right? I had to call cousins, aunts, uncles, people. And there was this conversation I had with myself in the morning of, you need to toughen up. You need to pull it together. You need to toe the line. You've got to get on these calls and show that you are in control. Everything's fine, but you're just, and I don't know why I went to that, other than to try to control the environment. Right. And my first call was to my aunt. I couldn't get 5 minutes out. And I was 12 years old again. I was talking to my aunt. I'm 12 and I hear her voice and I hear my voice sound like that 12-year-old boy saying, I just lost my mom, and it was like that whole, I'm going to, be this executive that has his emotions in control. Cause I felt like that's what I was supposed to be. And within the first, 2 phone calls, I realized, nah, I'm just going to be this guy. I'm just going to be the boy that lost his mom, but in that moment, all of those masculine kind of belief systems and what I thought, I didn't know what it would be like to be the son of someone that lost their parent, and how you would show up for that. And what does that look like? Unfortunately, now I know, right?
Yeah.
Or fortunately, now I know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, unfortunately, we're all going to be
everyone's
part of the club. Yeah, we're all going to be part of the club. Yep. Yeah. Thanks, though, Stu.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.
Yeah, man. Hey, well, let's definitely, we'll talk about that offline and we'll get an episode out there because I think that's worth a discussion.
Thanks for checking in.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to have you back, and
glad to be back.
This version of Stu has been awesome, man. So
appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
So what about you, bud? Like, what was your, looking back at last year and some of the reflection things that we get all our clients to go through, and it's important to reflect and assess, right? That whole self-assessment thing is a core foundational component of leadership. Like, what are some of the things that you kind of took from last year, or who you were and how you showed up and who you want to be this year?
Yeah, I think most of my reflection was pretty harsh, from a point of view of just as partners to True Path, my own kind of like, where I'm at as a dad. And, there was a high degree of judgment in my reflection to begin. I reflect on the reflecting, to be honest. And in the spirit of like, really leaning into what did I really want to focus on first. And I found myself on all the things I wanted to change and would have done over. And so there was a little bit of that frankly, I don't know that I would have come out if Kath wasn't sitting with me and we were having and sharing some notes together. And she's like, hey, like, this is what you should have done or wish you would have, or like to go over, or you want to call Stu and Chris, or you want to do, it's like, hey, there's also, what worked,
right?
What's going on? And thank God I got that proverbial slap in the face. However, she probably would have brought the hand if I didn't pick up quickly. But, the other side of it was, a lot of gratitude. That's the word that just, I think forever is going to just keep showing up for me. I think it's such a grounding word for me in so many ways of just kind of taking inventory and resetting of like, hey man, like all things considered, like what are you most grateful for? And what are you really grateful for? Not only just that what you have, but like what you've done or who's in your life. So it's not kind of the things. It was more about just the gratitude of getting to do this work with you two and getting to kind of do this work that I love, that coaching just in general, I love. Like, I just love the ability to walk with people. And then the kids at the ages that they're at, that they've got a litany of stuff that are just that, like most people, but just so many headwinds with regards to a lot. But yet on the other side, they're all in college now and they're all kind of, first time for college for our William and Oliver, our youngest twins. And so to take a minute of being grateful to be able to have the relationship I do with them, where I can kind of see the world through their eyes and these new experiences. And, there was a lot of, oh shit moments, as much as there were also like, hey, that teacher was awesome. Or, that person, I won't go down the road of like attractive people in there because they'll be pissed if they listen to this. But then, like just kind of that experience of kind of like going back to what it was like. I went to ASU as well. So it was kind of like, man, I know where they are. I know what classrooms they're in, like, them walking the mall down there. And like, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. So I kind of had, my truth is I came out and spent majority of the reflection in a pretty harsh, critical, inner critic. And thankfully, because I've got a wonderful partner in life, I was able to round it out. So I think with good balance, because I wouldn't give up what the do-overs and that's part of coaching that we all do. I need to be accountable, and I also need to take responsibility of what changes I want to make. But there was a lot of good stuff with regards to gratitude and being grounded. So that was a lot of the reflection. I filled up multiple books, or not books, but multiple pages of the book. Yeah, in the journal of just free writing and just kind of getting into it. And then Kath and I would share some notes from each one of them. And which I think is another powerful gift too, is like, don't write alone, so to speak. Like, I just think, I hope that people have a partner, and if they don't, I think they should just speak it aloud out to the world and someone's going to hear it. But like, I just think there's a lot there. So that was a mouthful, but that was a lot of the reflection for me, man. I did a lot of work, but didn't, do a lot of work. Like, I did a lot of self-work on that front. I've got all those notes to go back to and hope to make sure that I don't make the same mistakes this year. But if I do, also to pivot out of them much quicker than kind of staying in them and in the rut. And then the same token, be a little bit more grateful in the moment rather than wait until the end of the year to be grateful.
That's a great share, Tob. I think, I just, as someone that's coached me on that very same topic, and as someone that I know has coached Chris on that spiral, right, of judgment, and just how damaging that can be, right? And certainly especially when you're someone that's aware of it, right? When you know the damage. And I'm just curious. I've never asked you this. Like, when that happens to you, how do you kind of get recentered? I appreciate you sharing that vulnerability, but I'm curious, like, what does that recentering look like for a guy?
Well, I think that
punch him in the face.
Yeah. I mean, thank God she did. But like what part of it, Stu, for me, and this may not be an answer, but like I go back and think about how critical my pops was growing up, and how I sit, what the reflect, thinking about like that, and just how you had to just keep doing more and more, and nothing was ever good enough. And I hate to say that about dad. Like, there were things and times where that happened, but generally speaking, I walked that tightrope of like, don't want to mess up and don't want to. I found out that I don't want to disappoint, but yet I do things that do disappoint. Like, it's almost like I kind of almost do it to myself. And so to get out of it, I do think that I needed that slap, and I also needed to journal, and I also needed to kind of reflect back on like, how did that feel getting that from someone else? And so then how is it that I'm now doing that to myself, which we all know, and that's what we coach on a lot of. I basically took on his narrative. And so those are some of the things where I had to challenge, like, hey, I'm doing the very thing that I didn't want done to me, but I'm doing it to myself.
Yeah.
And you can't say you dumb. You got to say like, and it's okay. And now what do you want to do, and how will you balance this? So that's part of, without really thinking it through right on the spot there, that's kind of what I think happens to, I think.
Yeah, that's great. I think there's just such a fine line between that kind of self-sabotage and that martyrdom where we're just, giving ourselves a death by a million cuts when for me, it's always been tied to, like you said, letting other people down, or shame, right? There's that dynamic of shame. And it's like, I never understood that concept of shame until later in life, but that is probably one of the worst punishments we could ever get in life, right? And whether it's we do it to ourselves or others do, worse is when others do it to it. But when we keep ourselves in that shame cycle, it's just so I love the word gratitude, because that's what I was going to say. That's what you help me with, right? Is to step into gratitude usually can help you pivot out of that. But man, there's so many people that listen, and friends of mine that are living in this place of what if and could have, should have, and just watching them work through that and not being able to pop out of it. It was just, I appreciate your perspective on that.
You got it. How about you, YC? How about your reflection?
Yeah, mine was similar. I mean, man, we did so many great things last year, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's where I get really excited and happy, and like, we get to do this. And I mean, we built an awesome business, and so I started there, and then quickly I went to the, the negative, right? And yeah, and we I think I could have been a better partner to you guys. Let us drift as partners, right? We got caught up in the business and in growing it, and we kind of forgot about us. It's funny how quickly you forget all the shit that you teach, right? But we forgot about it. So I went there, and then I was I don't know if it was the beginning of the year or very end of the year. One of the guys that I connected with on LinkedIn through this class I'm in, he had this post about his aunt. Over the break, talking about how she's living the life she's supposed to live, and she was so enthusiastic and excited, and so on and so forth. And he's sharing this story on his LinkedIn post, and he came to the realization in his post. He's like, "Dude, I'm doing that. Like, I'm living the life I'm supposed to live." And it was a cool kind of realization. And then as I'm reading it, I'm like, "Holy shit! Like, I'm living the life I want to live." Holy shit, right? But and this is where the reflection came in. Like, am I, right? Like, inside, like, I am outside. I'm doing all the things, Stu, we talked about it earlier, right? Like, all the things that everybody always told me I'm got to do. You got to be speaking in front of people. You got to be leading people. You got to be being your authentic self. And I get to do all those things in this job, but like that inner dialogue is it's drowning me, right? Like, that's what I realized. I need to do a lot of work in that inner dialogue, because on the outside, it's like, dude, I'm living this unbelievable life. I don't have to go to work. I come behind and I go to work from home. I get to see my kid, all the things that I always wanted, everything I always wanted. But inside, I'm just beating myself up. I'm not being enough. And there's a stress that I carry into each day to like do more, like, that I'm not enough kind of thing, right? Like, try to prove to someone or something that I am enough. I don't know who that is yet. I still got to figure that out. It's me, so I realized that. So I was very constructive with that, Tobe, to your point. Like, I realized, like, I just need to work on that. So I got to work, man. And over the break, I created this reading, morning routine that I've always wanted to do. So every morning I get up now and I read this book. I read Untethered Soul in a couple of weeks, which is like not an easy read.
No,
and I actually really read it. Like I really read it this time. I probably read it 3 other times. I don't know if I really read it, and I really read it. And that for those of you guys know Michael Singer, that's the guy that, really turned me on to that surrender component. And when this is all said and done, we're on this rock spinning in the atmosphere, in the universe. And, when it's all said and done, and Stu, we talked about earlier with your mom, like, it's like, what's this all for? Right.
Yeah.
And that keeps me grounded, like that understanding that keeps me grounded. And again, it's 3 weeks into January, and there's still sometimes that, that urgency and that bubbles up. But now I have a methodology to kind of get regrounded again. And I'm really excited, but I just realized to myself, like, I have to continually work on that surrender component. It's easy to say like, oh yeah, just surrender to it. It's peaceful, but you really have to work on it. Like, it's something, because, life's coming at you pretty hard. So I figured that out about myself, man. I'm just really, really hard on myself. And I think it's because I want this so bad, because I do get to live my most authentic life. So hopefully you guys will see from me as a more authentic me coming back to me, even as small things like this podcast, right? Like, I used to get so stressed out about this narrative, like this intro I had to do. And then I was all worried about the close, and it's like, who gives a shit, dude? Like, let's just get on and talk.
They're not coming here for the entry and the close.
It was good.
Who gives a shit? What's that?
It was good though, but
it was good.
That's not why they're here.
Yeah, it was great. Right, whatever. It wasn't for me because I stressed out about it. So I'm like, let's just be us, man. Like, let's just be me, right? So that's what I'm really excited about this year, and just being more present with the boys and being more appreciative and grateful for the life that I get to live. But again, it's a lot of the hard work that I put into being where I am right now. So I'm grateful for that too, and what got me here. But it was a lot of kind of deep, like, who do I want to be this year kind of stuff over the break. And sometimes that dude was just some guy that gets to sit for 3 hours and watch Stranger Things, and that's okay.
That's all right.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good dude too. So yeah, man, it's just, I'm trying to practice a lot of the conversations that I have with, the people that we coach and the teams that we work with, and try to really bring this to life. And it's not perfect. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We're all kind of get to live this human experience, which is not perfect. So that was a lot of mine. That was a lot of mine.
Chris, thanks for sharing that. Just one thought that comes to mind. One of the benefits of being in True Path, or more importantly, having 20 plus year relationships with you guys, is we know each other, right? But what's beautiful is we know each other fully. We understand our DNA and our dynamics. And I want to point this out. This isn't the first reflection of Chris, after a holiday break hey man, I got to be easier on myself. What's different, and what I hear that's different, and this is a compliment to you, is the kindness that you're giving that part of it. The versus this, oh look, I'm a mess, I'm broken, I'm not capable. It wasn't, you didn't communicate it this year, right? In a framework of the negative outcome. It's this what could be, and how fortunate, and that gratitude. It's just a different conversation, although it's a similar one, right? And it's that journey of us trying to figure out what that wholeness or that connectedness, that fulfillment is. And that's doing the work, right? And I think what I think a lot of people assume is they go to a class, they read a book, they have an open conversation with somebody a couple of times, and it's like, I'm good, man. I'm in touch with my emotions. It's like there's themes, right? And anybody that's listening to this, we're leaving breadcrumbs of who we are behind us if we look back. And it's like, to see the growth, and I'm sure Toby's got some perspective here as well for you, but that ability to be self-aware without the martyrdom or the negativity, you positioned it as a bit of freedom, of kind of like, yeah, this is who I am, and look what I get to go do. That's just maturity that we haven't always shown on this podcast. And I think I just want to call out the growth of saying, yeah, I'm still kind of asking the same questions I asked last year and the year before. I'm just hearing the answers differently now. Like there's something really mature and really exciting about that. So I hope you feel that, just as someone that loves you and someone that's been with you for a long time and heard you go through this. This is the Weiss reinventing moment. Yeah. What's different is there's a lot of validation of the good and a lot of excitement about what could be. And so I hope most people go through this moment of who am I and where am I in this positive framework that you just showed and how you explained it. So thank you.
Yeah, it goes into that shame thing you were talking about before, right? I'm reading this book now called Men's Work, and it was interesting how he introduces shame, and it's like, hey, I messed up versus I'm a loser.
Yeah, it's big difference, right?
Right, like it's the same situation, but it's two different ways to look at it, and it's like, oh man, hey, I didn't do everything I wanted to do, but that's okay. But now I get to go do it. Now I get to work on it a little bit. It's just less of that shame and more of that just understanding that, hey man, this is the journey. Where like we're human, we're all gonna mess up, we're all not gonna be perfect, we're all gonna think but like how you gonna treat yourself in the process is really the learning that I'm going through.
Yeah, the Toby, I know you got something to share. I just want to say it's like the force unraveling, right? Like there's these moments that set us back a little bit. And what I've always done is like that gave me permission to unravel, like to like wash away all the growth and all the good. Like that gave me permission to be a mess. And and what I hear is like before the unravel, you're catching it going, no, I'm building on all the good. I'm not going to let it unravel. And I think that's just the power of action, intentionality, and surrender kind of come in, even though they combat each other, they kind of need to be present at the same time. Anyway, Tobe, I'm dying to hear from you.
Well, no, Stu, you nailed. I was laughing because you so nailed him on what I'm feeling like and seeing and witnessing in our friend here. The irony of it all, and just to quickly hit what you said, so I don't mean to top it, but like the Chris of old, it would be angry that he's not kind to himself.
Yeah.
Like he'd be kicking his ass on how he can't just be kind to himself. That is classic Weiss right there. Totally. And your point though of he gets to now be kinder and a little more gentle with how he kind of like learns. That's the beauty of it all. That's the pivot that I'm seeing. And Chris, he's spot on with what he just said there. So, but I think the commitment that we all have, and I think, our listeners need to have with their friends, and it doesn't have to be male to male, female to female, whatever it is we got to watch each other, because that inner critic is one screw up away of really going there. And I do think there's a level of accountability, but it's kind of when the accountability then is just never ending. Like it's just literally is there. And we got to pay attention to how we treat ourselves, or specifically how we speak to ourselves. Cause it's brutal, but you nailed it, dude. Like just, it's exactly the pivot I see.
It's just, again, that ability, this is what I think healthy relationships should feel like, male relationships, where I love what you just said with like, we got to look out for each other, because you guys know more than anybody. I am quick to slip into martyrdom. Like I'm happier, pounding on myself than to letting anybody give me feedback. Right. And so, and Chris, you've done it multiple times. Like, hey, bro, where are you? Tobe, you called me out a couple months ago. Like, are you good? And it's that reminder of, look at all the growth and how far we've come. And we're lucky we've got the amount of years that we have together to be able to take advantage of that, to not let ourselves get off the path. And I mean, that was one of the founding motivators for all of us to join True Path, was like, we wanted to get old together and keep each other in check. And I just love that we did a call like this, a podcast like this is probably what we need to do more of. I'm sure our audience would like to learn a little something other than our dramas, but it's just
anyway, man. Yeah. Hopefully they're when you listen to others, you're looking at yourself and kind of figuring you out. So hopefully they took a little bit of that too. So
and it happens both inside and outside. Just last thing to say, because I had that experience with Chris in Minnesota, and like we were there two different times, and my first time with him was not good.
Yeah.
And it was more a point of view of like what came out of me. And I know that I've learned, and that was part of that reflection and that regret and that kind of like, how did I get myself to that point where then I, simple little things from a friend that I care a lot about trigger.
Wow.
And so we'll go inside, but we got to spot each other on the outside, like the viciousness of kind of my responses. And I just wasn't kind to my friend. And I literally went in. I was someone I didn't want to be. That had a lot to do with the pain that I was carrying. That's my truth. My truth was that the inside for me was not happy with the version of me that Chris got to work with in that moment. And bigger than that, just kind of like the journey of the year. So it's again, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of depth to it, but like us talking about what we're learning, experiencing through this from our own trials and tribulations, there's a lot to teach on that front. And I think it's, and I don't really give a shit if anybody gives a fuck.
I don't either.
Hey, you know what? This is what we got for today. And if you don't like it, fast forward.
And next week we might have something. Hey, one thing I want to, what I appreciate about the three of us, and just, I won't go into my reflection, but what I will say is at times in this dynamic, in a partnership like this, in a business like this, but just in life, and certainly what we do, there's a lot of things that happen. We don't work in a central office where we see each other every day. We don't, there's not lunch breaks. There's no catch up. It is 100% intentionality to want to build a company with two partners that live remote, right? And Chris has been that glue. Chris has been the guy that's kept this whole thing together for the last year plus. And I thank you for that. And I think Toby would say thank you as well, that, dude, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. But the other thing that we got to remember is when we get off track is when we judge. Like one thing for us is when we jump to conclusions about what the other person's thinking. And I think that happens in our marriages, that happens in our friendships and our parents. And like that, what I hear us doing right now, and what we always do, we just don't talk a lot about it, is we check in. And we check in with each other a lot. And they're not always fun and they're not always easy. But thanks to, Chris, you being that connector, you force us to do that. And so I just want, again, to say that when someone is going through these moments, or Chris, when you're not in a good spot, or Toby, you show up in Minnesota and not yourself. One of the special things that we also got to remember, and men in general, is to not take the bait on judgment. Because what I'm learning is I've had a lot of judgment come my way, but I've also given out a lot. And to be quite honest with you, that dynamic just breaks teams apart. It breaks families apart. It breaks friendships apart. And so one of the things that I hope to commit to, and my reflection going into this year, is just, I don't need to protect myself so much that I need to become judgmental all the time. And that's where confidence and I think connection are more powerful. And that's what I hope for us.
Well said, buddy. Really.
Right?
Cool. I love it, man.
We just can't be
the investment in the relationships, like Toby, the Minnesota thing. I know I think you beat yourself up more than you had to on that. Like there's a level of grace given too, because of the relationship we have and the love that I have for you and the deposits that we've put in. And there's we were working with a client, Stu and I are working with a client next week actually. And one of the things we brought up is the withdrawal and deposits, right? And the fact that you need to be intentional with the deposits, because you will take out in any relationship, there will be withdrawals, probably more but so you have to be very intentional with those deposits. And Tobe, I just, I know I don't have to say this, but like you and I put in a ton of deposits with each other, and I love you as a person. One little moment or episode, I could give that grace and that understanding. And I probably wasn't my best self in that thing either. So it was funny. The next week we had a fucking awesome time.
You guys were awesome. The next
we made up for it. We're like, all right, we're gonna go into this trip like we want to run, like we're running a company the way we want to. We went to a NBA basketball game.
There you go.
Time, but we still went. We had a good dinner. We had we did it up. That's how all our trips are going to be moving forward, man.
I love how you mumbled halftime. Yeah, that's how all our trips are going to be. Halftime.
Toby and I were like, okay, this was fun, but I don't think we need to stay for the whole thing.
9:30.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Let's get out of here.
I gotta get out of here.
8:30. We left 9:30.
Let's beat the rush and leave at halftime. Yeah, beat the rush and leave at halftime. Never done that.
Like that insurance commercial. We park by the gate. Make sure we get out quick.
That's exactly us. That was exactly us. So. Well, hey man, I'm super excited about this year. For those of the audience that are listening to, thanks for all your support over the last year. I think I probably said this last year, but we are going to be more consistent. We're going to have some guests on, but we're just going to be us. We're going to bring up topics that we feel like people need to hear about, things that we're going through on our path that we hopefully share, and bring other guests on to talk about their path and what they're going through, because I do think that we're all kind of in this together. We all have different paths, but I think even stories like this resonate with what we have going on and kind of go internal to them. And hopefully you guys did that through this, and hopefully you reflected on who you were last year and who you want to be this year in the different roles that you play in your life. And we promise to bring more of that type of content to this. So hope you'll join us. And thanks so much for supporting us. And thanks for being on the path with us.